evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International. And now for the headlines. On American campuses, pro-Palestinian protests have quieted down after weeks of demonstrations, clashes with police, and numerous arrests. Meanwhile, South Korea is on high alert following warnings from its intelligence agency about potential terrorist attacks by North Korea, targeting South Korean officials and citizens overseas. Tragedy has struck in Mexico. The FBI has confirmed the discovery of 3 bodies in Baja California near the area where 2 Australian brothers and an American friend vanished last week while surfing. In East Africa, Kenya faces a double crisis. Devastating floods and an approaching cyclone have prompted President William Ruto to declare a state of high alert and postpone the reopening of schools. And finally, a significant development for the space industry. Boeing's Starliner capsule is finally set for its first crewed mission years after SpaceX's successful launch. Pro-Palestinian protests on U.S. campuses have seen a relative lull after weeks of demonstrations, clashes with police, and mass arrests. Early Friday morning, police in Manhattan cleared a protest encampment at New York City at New York University. Social media footage captured the scene, showing a calmer atmosphere compared to the confrontations witnessed elsewhere. Now, these protests against the Israeli-Palestinian conflict have multiplied on campuses across the U.S. and worldwide. University officials caught between free speech concerns and complaints of disruption have increasingly called for police intervention. The University of Chicago reported failed negotiations with student protesters and hinted at potential police action to clear their encampment. The news coincides with reports of counter-protests involving dozens of pro-Israel demonstrators, necessitating police separation of the 2 groups. Over the past 2 weeks, these protests have resulted in over 2,000 arrests, raising concerns about police use of force. Facing pressure from all sides, President Biden addressed the protests, emphasizing the need for order to prevail.
We've all seen the images, and they put to the test 2 fundamental American principles. The first is the right to free speech, and for people to peacefully assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest.
South Korea's intelligence agency, the NIS, has warned of potential terrorist attacks by North Korea targeting South Korean officials and citizens abroad. In response, the Foreign Ministry has increased the alert level for diplomatic missions in 5 countries, and these include embassies in Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, as well as consulates in Vladivostok, Russia, and Shenyang, China. North Korea is suspected of sending agents to these countries to surveil South Korean embassies and identify potential targets. The increased threat is reportedly linked to a recent rise in defections of North Korean elites. Experts believe these defectors, who were stationed overseas during the pandemic, have become disillusioned with the regime. North Korea, they say, may be seeking retaliation for these defections. Now, this isn't the first time North Korea has been accused of targeting South Koreans abroad. The NIS cited the 1996 killing of a South Korean consul in Vladivostok and a 1983 assassination attempt against a South Korean president in Myanmar as past examples. In a show of unity, the defense ministers of the United States, Australia, Japan, and the Philippines held a joint press conference in Honolulu, Hawaii. Tensions are high in the South China Sea following this aggressive act by a Chinese vessel in Honolulu. The defense chiefs addressed these concerns with a recent incident, fueling speculation about the potential use of the U.S.-Philippine Mutual Defense Treaty. When asked about the possibility of invoking the Mutual Defense Treaty with the Philippines, Secretary Austin emphasized the importance of upholding international law. Secretary Austin condemned the actions that put Filipino sailors at risk. He also stressed that the U.S. commitment to the Philippines is clear.
Regarding our treaty with the Philippines, we've been very clear to everyone, to include Beijing, that the kind of behavior that we've seen where Filipino crews are put in danger, where sailors have been injured and property damage, that's irresponsible behavior, and it disregards international law.
The Philippines echoed this sentiment, highlighting the importance of peaceful solutions while remaining prepared.
Our jobs as secretaries is to make sure that there are no situations through capability building, through deterrence, that an MDT situation would arise. And so we are very conscious of the fact that we need to assert our rights, but in a manner that safeguards the safety of each and every member of the Philippine Armed Force.
At the last trilateral meeting, we were able to agree to promote cooperation and also interoperability in the area of the defense and peacekeeping and security, and not too far off from the U.S., Philippine, and Japan summit. This time we were able to hold this defense ministers and the secretaries meeting, and also hold this joint press conference today. And I would like to continue sending messages throughout the world that us, four nations and governments, gathered together here today, and will be sending, will be in hand-to-hand to continue making efforts to the realization of free and open Indo-Pacific region, as well as realizing orders based on abiding by the rules.
And I'd make the observation that in standing for a free and open Indo-Pacific, in standing for the expression of the global rules-based order in our region, we are standing for what has underpinned prosperity and security within the Indo-Pacific.
Adding to the discussion, President Marcos recently stated that U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin assured him the treaty would be invoked if a foreign power killed a Filipino soldier in the disputed waters.
If any Filipino serviceman is killed by an attack from any foreign power, then that is time to invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty. I actually, when I spoke to him in Washington, I thanked him for making it very, very clear to everyone.
In the sweltering heat of Manila, thousands of students are facing disruptions to their education. Schools across the city have been closed due to record-breaking temperatures. The Philippine capital has been experiencing scorching temperatures, with readings reaching a staggering 38.8 degrees Celsius or 101.4 degrees Fahrenheit over the weekend. And this has forced the closure of more than 47,000 schools nationwide, impacting over 7,000 schools in Manila alone. Even at home, the heat is causing difficulties for students like 10-year-old Ella Araza. With limited space and rising temperatures, focusing on schoolwork becomes an even greater challenge.
Kasi nung pag mainit po, ma'am, pag po siya eh. Minsan, mama, kate, ganyan. Kasi marami siya nung nakarang buong araw.
The heat is taking a toll not only on students' ability to learn, but also on their health. Cindela Manabat, a mother of a young child, describes the impact of the extreme temperatures.
Tamad siya magsulat pag sa online cellphone. Hindi niya minsan ginagawa yung homework niya. Opo.
Many families living in cramped quarters with limited ventilation are feeling the brunt of the heat wave. Richelle Mangampo, another parent, describes the struggles of keeping her children cool in their home.
Sobrang init talaga dito. Kaya babang-baba ang hero namin. Kaya pinapaligo ko, kahit ayaw yan sila maligo, pinapaligo ko yan, sir, kahit mas masaan man lang. Yung kainitan sa katawan, kaya yung mga bukol-bukol na pagising, pawis na, tapos dito may mga bungang araw.
With schools closed and temperatures expected to remain high, authorities are urging residents to stay hydrated and take precautions to avoid heat stroke. The long-term impact of these closures on education remains to be seen. Adding to the concerns, the State Weather Service, Gaza, has also warned this extreme heat will persist for the next 2 weeks at least, meaning students could be mostly stuck at home before the school year ends on May 31st. The death toll from devastating floods and mudslides triggered by torrential storms in the region has climbed to 39, officials confirmed on Friday, with concerns of further catastrophe looming. As relentless rains continue to pound the area, rescue teams aboard boats and aircrafts are scouring through the debris of collapsed homes, bridges and roads in search of dozens of missing individuals.
Deus o livre, né? Olha o pessoal ali com gado dentro da pastagem ali, porque o pasto que eles iam tirar, né, para o gado comer. Agora eles têm que deixar o bicho ali em cima e não se sabe se vai subir mais, o que vai acontecer com esses animais ali. Daqui a pouquinho vão morrer, né, afogado. E aí?
In the state of Rio Grande do Sul, rising water levels are putting immense pressure on dams and posing an imminent threat of unprecedented flooding to the city of Porto Alegre, according to authorities. The state civil defense department revealed that since Monday, at least 265 municipalities in Rio Grande do Sul have been ravaged by storm damage, resulting in 74 injuries and displacing over 24,000 residents, a third of whom have sought refuge in shelters. The latest data paints a grim picture, with at least 68 people still unaccounted for and more than 350,000 individuals experiencing varying degrees of property damage. The situation shows no signs of improvement, as officials have declared an emergency situation and warned of a risk of collapse at 4 dams in the state. Tragic news from Mexico this morning. The FBI has confirmed the discovery of 3 bodies in Baja California, near where 2 Australian brothers and an American friend vanished during a surfing trip last week. The victims have not yet been officially identified, but authorities are investigating a possible connection to the missing tourists, Jake and Callum Robinson from Australia and Jack Carter from the U.S.
Sí, tenemos el lamentable incidente de 2 personas de origen australiano y uno de origen estadounidense, una persona, 3 varones que se encuentran en calidad de desaparecidos, que estuvieron llevando a cabo algunas actividades, al parecer deportivas, de surfeo y de turismo.
The 3 men were last seen on April 27th near Ensenada, a popular surfing destination in Baja California. Now, concerns arose when they never reached their planned accommodation. The bodies were found in Santo Tomas, a town roughly 30 miles south of Ensenada. The search previously focused on cliffs near Ensenada itself. Mexican authorities are holding 3 Mexican nationals for questioning. They've also recovered a white pickup truck believed to be connected to the case. The situation is grim. Baja California, despite its beautiful beaches, is plagued by violence from organized crime groups. And this incident tragically echoes the murders of 2 Australian surfers in neighboring Sinaloa, and this was back in 2015. For the past 3 weeks, tens of thousands of Georgians have taken to the streets to protest a controversial foreign influence bill. Critics strongly oppose the legislation, comparing it to repressive Russian laws used to silence dissent. Despite the ongoing protests, the Georgian parliament passed the bill with a large majority on May 1st. However, a third and final vote is still needed before it officially becomes law. Take a look.
ერთად დგომა და არ განებება. ესაა ყველაზე სწორი და ეს ხდება უკვე ამდენი დღეა პერმანენტულად. ხალხი უფრო და უფრო იმატებს დაღლის ნაცვლად დრისი მოლოდინიც აქვს ხელისუფლებას.
მე ვფიქრობ, რომ ეს არის ტალღა ახალგაზრდების, იმიტომ რომ ჯენზი არ უყურებს ტელევიზორს, არც ჩემი მეგობრები არ უყურებენ და არც მე. რეალურად Facebook-ზე, Instagram-ზე, TikTok-ზე ვხედავთ ამ მუხტს, როდესაც ჩემი მეგობარი, ჩემი ბიძაშვილი, ჩემი ახლობელი დგას აქციაზე, შენც რაღაცნაირად გინდა რომ იდგე მის გვერდით და დაისვა შენი ქვეყანა.
მივესალმები სწორ გადაწყვეტილებას მიღებული ხელისუფლების მიერ, რომ გამოიწვია ეს კანონი. ეს მისგან არის გადაწყვეტილება, რომ გაითვალისწინოს ხალხის რეალური ძალა. ის რაც გამოჩნდა თბილისის ქუჩებში, ის ერთიანობა.
პერიოდში არ არის უმთავრობას და არ არის უკანონს და ამასთანავე ჩვენი ვიცით ჩვენი უფლებებისთვის, თანასწორობისთვის, როგორც ეკონომიკურად უნდა ვიყოთ თანასწორები, ისე ყველანაირი უფლება უნდა გქონდეს ქართველებს და ამიტომ გავართ აქ, რომ ჩვენი უფლებები დავიცვათ. მოხდებოდა საქართველოს რუსეთში მოუბრუნდებოდა ვერ წარმოვიდგენდი ვერასდროს. აუხტენელი ოცნება ის დაგვიდგა რომ ამის აღწევს ძალიან ახლა უკან დაბრუნება არის.
სისხლიანმა რეჟიმმა გადაასვა ციხეები, აწამლა პატიმრები, შეიწირა ასობით უკაცრიელობა.
და არის პირველ რიგში საქართველოს ევროპული არჩევანი, მაგრამ არჩევანი ისეთი, რომელიც იქნება ქართული ღირსების, ქართული ტრადიციების დაცვით და
ანუ მამული ენას არც მონება ჩვენი ვინაობა. ანუ მე ჩემ ვინაობაზე ვარს ვერასდროს ვერ ვიტყვი.
ალტერნატიულ წინადადებას, რომელიც ქალბატონმა თეონ აკუბარდიამ წარმოადგინა. მადლობა. დადებები საპარლამენტო ფრაქციის ქართული ოცნების საკანონმდებლო ინიციატივის წესით დღევანდელი სხდომა დახურულება. ქართველებსა და აფხაზებს უქმნიან გარემოს, სადაც ეს ადამიანები შეძლებენ ერთმანეთს.
Now turning to the latest developments in the ongoing violence in Haiti. Once again, criminal gangs have launched a severe attack on the capital city Port-au-Prince, and this assault marks one of the most significant attacks since the announcement of the nation's next prime minister earlier this week. The neighborhood southwest of Haiti's main international airport bore the brunt of the violence. Gang members set homes ablaze and engaged in hours-long gunfire exchanges with law enforcement. Following this latest wave of violence, hundreds more residents fled their homes in Port-au-Prince, and many were seen walking along the city streets, carrying their children in search of safety. Some carried essentials as they left, while dozens of families sought refuge in already overcrowded shelters.
Qui ça faut atteindre l'objectif ou c'est entendre avec le peuple côtoyer font calcul exact pour nous comment zone nous prendre responsabilité.
The escalation in violence is attributed to powerful gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, who recently threatened violence if the gangs were disregarded by the new government.
Nous pas voulons exclusion. Tout ça qu'a fait là c'est entre nous pour le faire, c'est nous tous ensemble. C'est soit Haïti tourner paradis pour nous tous ou bien la tourner l'enfer pour nous tous.
Cherizier demanded a seat at the table and is considered a key figure behind the nation's unrest. These coordinated attacks led to the resignation of the former Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, last month. A transitional council has since taken over, appointing a new Prime Minister, Fritz Belzier. Both Belzier and the Transitional Council face the monumental task of restoring stability to the crisis-ridden nation, reining in the gangs, and putting an end to the violence. As events unfold, it's becoming evident that this task is far more challenging than anticipated. Now, Kenya is facing a double threat, devastating floods and an approaching cyclone. President William Ruto has declared a state of high alert and postponed the reopening of schools indefinitely.
Kenya may face its first ever cyclone. This cyclone, named Hidaya, could hit any time and is predicted to cause torrential rain, strong winds, and powerful and dangerous waves, which could potentially disrupt marine activities in the Indian Ocean and settlement along the Kenyan coast.
Torrential rains across East Africa since March have claimed over 350 lives. Now the region prepares for Cyclone Hidaya, expected to make landfall this weekend. Schools scheduled to reopen on Monday will remain closed. Ministers have been ordered to coordinate evacuations from flood-prone areas.
The Ministry of Education is directed to postpone the dates of reopening of all schools in the country for the second term until further notice.
Cyclone Hidaya is expected to reach peak wind speeds of 165 kilometers per hour when it hits neighboring Tanzania on Saturday. Cyclone season in the southwest Indian Ocean typically ends in April, but Hidaya's formation highlights the changing weather patterns. Kenyan Environment Minister Soy Pantuya acknowledges the unprecedented situation.
We will all agree that we are living in extraordinary times, that even from the weathermen, that we are experiencing extremes that have not been witnessed before. To this point, the levels of preparedness for various sectors may be at different levels, but I can assure Kenyans that the government is stepping up efforts, including measures to ensure safe relocation of Kenyans.
Sadly, we have not seen the last of this perilous period, as the situation is expected to escalate. Meteorological reports paint a dire picture. The rains will persist, increasing both in duration and intensity for the rest of this month and possibly after.
Kenya faces a crucial weekend as it grapples with ongoing floods and prepares for the potential impact of its first ever cyclone. We'll continue to monitor the situation and bring you more updates. A United Nations agency says rebuilding war-racked Gaza will cost an estimated $30 billion to $40 billion. And the UN Development Program says it'll require an effort on a scale unseen since World War II. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
This is what much of Gaza looks like today. 72% of all residential buildings in the Palestinian territory have been destroyed. UN Assistant Secretary General Abdallah al-Dardari says the first step is to provide housing to those who have no place to live.
Our main concern is to be ready on any possible day after, to bring in, at least, as I said, the temporary shelters and all the other necessary basic services with them.
Al-Dardari says that could cost $2 billion to $3 billion in the first 3 years. Much of the country's infrastructure is gone. The education system has been wiped out. Al-Dardari says schools are now just piles of rubble. Children are being taught in makeshift classrooms like these, set up in tents in refugee camps. Al-Dardari says there is no place in Gaza for people to get an education.
We know that a large number of schools and universities have been fully or partially destroyed, to the point where we can say that there is no longer an educational system, infrastructure and superstructure in Gaza.
In just as bad shape is the territory's healthcare system. Hospitals have been shelled, destroying equipment and buildings. At the Nassar Medical Complex in Khan Yunis, doctors have managed to get the emergency department open again. They salvaged what equipment they could, scrounged some from other hospitals, and had still other instruments provided by foreign aid. Al-Dadari says it's critical to get hospitals functioning again.
5% of the population has been either killed or badly wounded, and that's again one of the it's an unprecedented level of casualties in a very short time.
Al-Dadari says reconstruction of Gaza is a mission that the global community has not dealt with since World War II. He adds if the job is carried out through the normal process, it could take decades. And he says the Palestinian people do not have the luxury of waiting that long. Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
And now we head out to Las Vegas, Nevada, where Bureau Chief Anna Cui explores the Great American Foodie celebration and how it brings people together. Anna, what did you find?
Las Vegas is known for many things, including food. And where there's great food, there's always a crowd, just like here at this Great American Foodie event, where families can enjoy not only different types of food, but also carnival games and rides and live entertainment. From your familiar carnival food to a bit more exotic choices, there's something for everyone to try.
Right now I am having an alligator po' boy with hot sauce, pickles, and lettuce. No mayo, and it is one of the best alligator po' boys I done had. And I done had a few of them. Louisiana, California.
I love it. It feels like, well, I love carnivals in general, but this is really nice. Everyone's been so nice, and the food looks good. It's pineapple chunks, and then they said that this is whipped, like frozen whipped cream.
I've been here, right in front, that's the empanada. So I love empanada, and I'm pescatarian, and so I don't eat meat, but they have a vegan meat option. So it was delicious. And then, if you can see, I have then also this exotic juice, and you can refill too. So it's amazing, having a good time here.
It is so satisfying to see people enjoying great food and just having fun all together. And as we know, food brings families together, which also runs true for Four Corners Food Truck, serving up delicious Filipino-Mexican-inspired dishes. Here's Ralph, who tells us how his kids help him with the business.
They give me their honest criticism of the food. If they like it, they love it, and I change it, especially her.
Other vendors are also family-owned, like Nate with exotic juices. He's proud to share that he's been working on their juice recipes with his parents for 15 years. And sometimes even great-tasting products need a fresh new look to stand out among the competition.
We were selling drinks already, but just in cups, and we saw the baby bottle, so we were like, let's try it out. And little did we know, it just popped off, and everyone wanted one. So we just ran with it.
Well, whether it's enjoying great food or playing games or simply sitting together listening to live music, it's just so nice to see families spending time together.
Anna Cui for Net 25 News.
Years after SpaceX success, Boeing Starliner capsule is finally ready for its first crewed mission. Liftoff is set for Monday evening, carrying astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams to the International Space Station. This flight is a critical test before Starliner enters regular service for NASA. Boeing, facing recent safety concerns with its airplanes, is eager to turn the page with a successful Starliner mission. The capsule has had a troubled development with delays and setbacks. However, veterans Wilmore and Williams are ready for the challenge. They'll be launched on a United Launch Alliance Atlas V or Atlas V rocket from Cape Canaveral. For NASA, a second crewed space flight option is crucial. This provides flexibility and backup in case of issues with SpaceX Dragon capsules.
This is all a part of our commercial activities. So you've already seen commercial crew and cargo to orbit with the Dragon and other cargo vehicles. This will give us that additional capability because we always look for a backup This is a test flight that brings to bear all the things that the title implies. We're testing the vehicle for, in this case, the first time with humans on board. We are going to have a whole new adventure. This is very much a part of our exploration of space in what I call the golden age of space exploration.
And I've never felt readier on any mission that I've ever participated in. We are fully aligned with NASA and ULA, and this is a very clean, it's been a very clean last month. So we're mature and we're where we're supposed to be at this point.
This is a significant moment for Boeing and NASA. We'll be following the launch closely and bringing you all the updates. As always, I'll end the day on a thoughtful note. Our ability to look back and smile at our past is proof that God's plan is to keep us moving forward. This has been Eagle News International. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay alert, stay informed, because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.